This is chapter 10 of Pasquala. It's called Like Stones in a Basket. At the first gray streaks of light, I awoke. I realized I had not heard the mission bells at dawn. For a moment, I did not know where I was. Then, the familiar sounds of the village came to my ears, and I remembered what had happened to my father. I was home where I wanted to be, but I had no feelings of happiness. When I looked at Mother, she was awake. She stood and put her arm around me. Together we lifted the elk skin that covered the opening of the cowie and stepped into the busy life of the village. The women of the village stared at us as they went about their morning work. They whispered to each other and motioned with their hands for us to come closer. They asked us why we had stayed at the mission. When my mother explained that I had been ill and the Padres at Mission Santa Ynez had helped me get better, the women looked at us as if they did not believe our story. Mother and I tried to tell them that after I recovered from my illness, we could not leave the mission for the fear that the soldados would follow us to the village. No matter what we said, the people of our village only remembered that we had abandoned our duties as members of our tribe. Without my father, loneliness filled our days and our nights. To show our love for him and to mourn his death, as is the Yokut's custom, Mother and I put pitch and charcoal on our faces. When my uncle saw us, he asked that we wash away the pitch and charcoal and told us that no one should mourn someone who had brought disgrace to the tribe. The next day, even though we knew my uncle would be very angry, Mother singed off our long black hair with a burning stick to show that we mourned Father's death. When my uncle looked at us, anger flared in his eyes. Our close, cropped hair reminded him of how we had gone against his wishes. My uncle had given us the task of preparing each morning's meal for the people of our cowie. Every morning my mother and I awakened before dawn. We went alone to the granaries and filled our baskets with dry acorns. After removing the shells and winnowing the thin skins from the acorns, we sat at the grinding rocks, pounding the nuts into a coarse meal. Before we could cook the acorn meal, we had to remove the bitter-tasting tannic acid. We went to the stream, where we dug holes in the sand and lined the holes with leaves. Then we spread acorn meal on top of the leaves. We covered the meal with more leaves and water was poured gently over the layers until the bitter tannic acid was washed away. When the acorn meal was ready, I mixed it with water in a watertight basket while my mother used her loop stick to take hot stones from the fire. Mother carefully put the hot stones into the basket to cook the acorn meal and water into a mush. Again and again I stirred the mush to keep the stones from burning the bottom of the basket. As soon as the mush thickened and the nut-like smell filled the air, we knew the mush was warm and ready to eat. Mother removed the stones with her loop stick and set them aside in an empty basket. As I stared at the stones in the basket, I thought of my mother and myself. We worked hard at our jobs, and then, like the cooking stones, we were put aside until we were needed again. Mother told me it would take time for my uncle and the people of our village to accept us again as members of the tribe. We were willing to work hard to prove to our people that we no longer had to be set aside like stones in a basket.